You asked for it. Here it is. It's a podcast from Apathetic Enthusiasm.
This week we're talking musicals. Well, one in specific and more on apatheticenthusiasm.com.
.com 100 years of apathetic enthusiasm. www.brandon.travis.com/apathetic enthusiasm. Hello everybody, I'm Travis.
Hello everybody, I am Brandon, and welcome to the greatest show on earth. That's right, Apathetic Enthusiasm. We were voted best podcast of all time,
ever in existence. Joe Rogan, he voted for us.
Yeah. All you have to do is run out there, do a quick Google search, look for best podcast of all time ever /1212, and you will find us. And if you can't, the site might be down.
Mark Maron thinks for the best. Joe Rogan, everybody that ever worked on Serial. Even they all agree.
Murderers, even the convicted murderers are like, you know what? You didn't do a true crime podcast about us, but if you had, we would listen to it.
It's nice to hear something different once in a while, Brandon, and that's why we're the #1 show. This is the show where we hang out and talk to each other about stuff going on. It's Apathetic Enthusiasm. If you have stuff going on that you want to talk to us about, there's ample ways that you can do that. You can hit us up on Twitter at Apathusiast. I am at Jugglemino. He is at Barnyard Cruise. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Apathetic Enthusiasm Show, or send us an email, apatheticenthusiasmshow@gmail.com. Also, we are on Instagram, apathetic_enthusiasm, and all of our stuff, every podcast that we make, all across this great wide podcast network of ours, more or less, that's what it is at apatheticenthusiasm.com. We are streaming live right now to you every Monday night, 8 Central, 9 Eastern time. I did that backwards. Over on twitch.tv/apathetic enthusiasm, or on YouTube, youtube.com/apathetic enthusiasm.
I think it's like probably like 1 or 2 in the morning in the UK time.
Sure.
Something like that.
If you are in, I don't know, India, and it's probably early morning or something, I would think. I mean, and that's just a rough estimation based on seeing a globe one time. Finally, you can purchase merchandise, mostly T-shirts, over at TeePublic. That's at apatheticenthusiasm.com/shop. Easiest way to get there. Get T-shirts with our faces on them. They mostly talk about Rick and Morty, but I mean, that's cool. You could get them anyway. Or you could support us directly at patreon.com/rickandmortypod. We are both coming off a long holiday weekend here in the United States. We have just celebrated another birthday, the 4th of July, the Independence Day, as it is known. Even though I read an article that we declared independence on the 2nd, but the actual Declaration of Independence was not signed till the 4th, mostly because some of Thomas Jefferson's words in the first version were too lenient on slavery. So had to fix that right up so that we could keep owning humans way too late into our country's history.
Sure.
So it was the 4th of July. A little bit of mixed emotions, I think, this year, especially with everything going on in our country with global pandemics and systemic racism and all sorts of other things. But how did you celebrate the long weekend, Brandon?
Well, my long weekend was spent in this way. We decided a couple weeks, maybe about a month ago, actually. And really Chelsea was the driver of this. I give her all the credit in the world because she put so much work into doing a staycation. And by staycation, like we got an Airbnb in Orlando, which is about an hour and a half away from where we live. And she researched it, And then she's like, "Is this one good?" I was like, "Yeah, that's good." Without actually looking, right? Just like, no, it's
Yeah, yeah, seems fine. You're
oh, this
like,
one
you
has
didn't even look in the direction of what I'm showing you. Nah, it
yeah,
looks great.
yeah.
5 stars.
Oh, we're gonna do 4 days. What kind of meals do you want? Do you want a like a pasta? I'm like, yeah, that's good. Like like a carnitas? Yeah. So she did a lot of work and she did a great job on it.
At least, I mean, at least you didn't like put up much of a fight, right? Like,
No, no, no,
I
no.
mean, so that's good. It's not helpful like when I'm asking questions of my wife where I'm like, do you want chicken or steak? And she's like, yeah, whatever. Sounds great. And I'm like, I just need input. And no, it's all good. And then I'm like, all right, steak it is. And she's like, I don't feel like steak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's there was a couple instances of that this weekend where like we would be like, "Would you want to do this? You want to do this? I want to do this." And then we'd like flip a coin or we'd roll a dice, and
Did you
then it
bring
would
a D20 with you for your vacation?
no, we did bring games though, but 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 then after the dice rolled in one option's favor, we're like, that's not actually what we wanted to play or what we wanted to do. But yeah, so we went up to Orlando and we 4 nights in an Airbnb, like basically right across the way from Universal, and so they had a pool there, and we don't have a pool at our real house, and so we did a lot of that, and then uh, it was the first day we were actually there, like, you know what? It's right now it's cool. Universal has their social distancing rules up. Let's go. And if it's crazy, if it is too packed and we don't feel comfortable being around that many folks, then we turn around. And so we went. Really, the only reason we went was because I want to go on Hagrid's before my season pass expires, and I'm like, this will probably be the last time that we ever go there, because we'll all be dead by then. One, uh, but also the pass might expire. So
Yeah. There's an outbreak of COVID going around Hogwarts, and you never know when Hagrid's gonna come down with it and ruin it for everybody.
now I will say that a lot of people just still don't get don't get it. And then it's still like there's spacers on the ground, and they're like where it says like this far away from people in the line. And for the most part, people adhere to that. We got to Hagrid's motorbike adventure or whatever it's called, and we got to the line, and when we got there, it started raining. As soon as we got into the back of the line, it's like, oh no, and then lightning. And as soon as lightning happens, they shut down the ride. Um, it is an outdoor ride for a large part of it.
Yeah.
They shut it down for at least a half an hour uh, per lightning strike. So as soon as there's another lightning strike, there's like another half an hour that they have to close the ride down. Well, we're like, we are not coming back here. We will wait. We will wait in this line until the it's done. So it was about an hour that we waited. Only about an hour and a half or so, which is far shorter than we would have waited in the actual line.
Sure.
But we were like the third people back because we waited there for so long. I bring that up partially because the kids behind us just like kept encroaching on our 6 feet of distance, kept encroaching. Like, get out of here, get out of here, you little shit. You're gonna die. You're gonna kill me. Um, but so we ended up riding the ride. It was worth the wait. We didn't realize it was so scary because my 8-year-old doesn't do roller coasters that well yet, and
When you
there
say scary, is it like the intensity of the ride itself, or is it like thematically scary?
Yeah, no, the intensity of the ride.
Okay.
There's a part where the ride goes backwards, and it's a roller coaster. There's no loops or corkscrews or anything like that, but it goes pretty fast, and then you get to a certain point where then it sends you backwards really fast, and you did not like that. And then there's a part where you're inside a very very dark cave, and all of a sudden you drop all of a sudden. Did not like that. And when that happened, the ride stopped and we weren't moving, and you could just hear his cries, his sobbing cries. I want off I felt so bad for him.
Yeah.
But the ride stopped and it wasn't going anymore. It stopped. We were there for like another 2-3 minutes. Like,
Oh, like the ride broke or like had like an error while you're on
yeah,
it?
yeah. And we're just like, oh, please don't drop again. Please don't drop again. And then we kept going. We got off the ride, and then 5 minutes later, it's like, that wasn't that scary. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
it was fine. I'd totally do it again. Oh, you want to go back? I mean, another time. Another time. He's
But it was,
he like knows your passes are about to expire too. He's like, yeah, I'd go on it in like 2 months. Well, our passes aren't going to be good in 2 months. Ah, well, oh well.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So we did that. That was fun. Then we left right away.
Did
We played some games, and it was great.
did you feel? I have so many questions about your story.
Yes, hit me
This
with it.
this is something my wife and I had been talking about. I think just today actually is in Orlando. Tons of theme parks. We went to Disney World last November. Um, you have been an annual pass holder at Universal. With the COVID restrictions and the things that they're doing there, did you feel like there were less people in general in the park? Did it feel like it was generally less crowded than times that you'd been in the past, or were the crowd sizes relatively the same?
Um, there were a significantly fewer folks there. It was still pretty. It's still fairly crowded. I would say, but for the most part, everybody was there. You could tell who was together. You could tell who the families were and who the friends were,
Yeah.
because they would be in like pockets of groups 6 feet apart from each other.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so me and my family would be like 6 feet away from another family that was 6 feet away from 6 feet from another family.
Well, which is
Uh,
good. That's like the intent, right?
yeah, yeah.
So other questions I have,
And occasionally, I would see some like people walking around like with their masks, like that, and then some lady or some man would be like, "The mask needs to be up."
like a cast member or like an
No,
employee
like
or just a
no,
random person being like,
yeah,
"Hey, get
yeah,
your mask on right." Yeah.
yeah.
Which bringing up masks, like and Florida heat, how unbearable was that ordeal?
I remember we were walking in, and I was telling Chelsea as we were walking in, because it was fairly cool in the afternoon. We went in at like 4:30 or 5. Oh, 4. We went at 4. It's fairly cool for a summer Florida day. So it was like 85, 90 with lots of humidity. And as we're walking in,
Which is as hot as it gets where I'm at right now, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go outside. I don't want to think about outside. Yeah.
it was, and I told her, like, we're walking with our masks. All these people are walking with their masks, and yes, it's kind of uncomfortable, but we are walking in heat, and we're not dying of oxygen, lack
Like
of oxygen.
carbon dioxide poisoning. Yeah.
Right. And like, man, there are a bunch of wussies out there.
All right, that's fair. I'll give you that.
And,
Yeah, Sheen and
and
I were like kind of debating because, Disney World reopens this next week, for the first time since I think March when they closed down. Initially, I think there's like a cast or not like cast members are back already. I think annual pass holders get to start like a preview on Thursday, and
mm,
then open to public on like the weekend. But like all of that comes with a ton of pre-planning where people had to like get their hotels booked in advance and then had to book the actual parks that they were going to in advance. There's no park hopping. You have to be at like the specific park the entire day. And we were just wondering, like, with all of the hoops you have to jump through and everything that's required, how is that going to affect your enjoyment of the park? And then also, like, because in some ways it could obviously make it worse. Like, there's not, you can't do like character meet and greets and things like that, which some
Mhm.
families really look forward to. I think most of the parades still are not happening. But in terms of like reduced capacity and rides being open and stuff like that, if you're really there for the attractions, I feel like it could be a really great thing because you probably have lower wait times
Yeah.
and you could maybe enjoy certain attractions more. Yeah, you have to wear a mask, but that's everybody should be wearing them anyway. So
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, as you're walking through City Walk, or you're walking wherever, you see people, and they take their mask down periodically because everyone wants a little bit of reprieve from having the mask on.
I get it.
Uh,
Yeah, for sure.
uh, but you could see, if you look around at that exact moment and look at other people that are observing that person, everyone is in their head going to be like, motherfucker, put that mask back on. Even though we're all like, yeah, no, we get it.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Put it
yeah, and I
back on.
understand.
Uh,
Yeah, all right. Well, yeah.
so that was fun. That was fun. The rest of the weekend we spent watching. I watched Minority Report on 4th of July with my brother, as
I
I
I almost
know.
encroached upon your tradition because I was sitting there on the 4th and like food was being prepared. I had like ribs in the smoker. I had 2 hours to kill. And I was like,
Oh,
I'm gonna watch a movie. I'm just gonna throw a movie on TV. And I was flipping through Netflix, and I was like, I could put on Minority Report and just send a picture to Brandon and be like, look at me, I'm a brother too. But I watched Temple of Doom instead. So,
all right, all
yeah.
right. That's okay. That's okay. We watched, Chelsea and I watched a lot of stuff this weekend. All the stuff I wanted to watch. I guess it was my vacation more than it was hers, maybe.
Hmm. Hmm.
But we watched Minority Report. We watched the Monty Python documentary that was out in 2009. That's on Netflix. It's a 3-part, 4 parts, 5-part series.
I'm wondering if I may not have watched that. I feel like maybe I started it. I need
Yeah,
to. I definitely need to go back and watch it.
it's a multi-part series with the exception of Graham Chapman, all the original Pythons,
Pythons.
talking about their history. So it was just really, really, really interesting to
Is
hear
that
that.
is that
That
why you texted me like randomly and you're like, Terry Gilliam's an American?
Yeah, no, that's exactly why. I was like, what?
I feel
What?
I feel like I've known that since high school because in my senior year I took a films class and we watched the movie Brazil
Oh yeah,
in
yeah.
that class and that was part of the teacher's like lead up to that because I think he showed us Holy Grail and then I don't know if we watched Life of Brian or not but then we watched Brazil and the tie-in was Terry Gilliam, and he was like,
Yeah.
yeah, he was part of Python, and then he went on to do this, and
That
yeah,
was so crazy to me, and I think why I thought he was British for a long time, not only because he was part of Monty Python, but uh, you know, he went he went from Monty Python and then he did Brazil, which is a very, very British dystopian type of movie, and there's such a British aspect to it that I was just always assumed that he was in fact British. Um, and so it tripped me out when I'm like, is he speaking with an American accent? Wait a minute. And I looked at Chelsea and she's like, he's American? Yeah. But yeah, so we did that, and then finally, I watched Swordfish because I was bored. But finally, we watched the reboot of Unsolved Mysteries, which we briefly did a rewatch of one as we were testing out the Twitch slash Hulu connectivity
yeah,
here.
those watch party things. So
Yeah, yeah.
Unsolved Mysteries, I'm completely out of the loop on this. Is there a host for Unsolved like the reboot?
No, there is not. The most host you get is a ghostly image of Robert Stack at the very end of the introductory credits.
All right.
And that's it. I stopped in at a Publix in Orlando, and the lady was like muffled through her face mask. I'm gonna just watch movies this weekend. What are you up to? Like, oh, I've been watching. Also muffled. Watching the Unsolved Mysteries reboot, and the bagger was like, "Oh yeah, but Robert Stack's not there." And this is a young guy, so like kind of threw me off. I'm like, huh. And he's like, and then as I was walking away, he's like, "I met Robert Stack in the airport one time." Like, what? Random
you talk
info.
about mask muffling. I find that I probably enunciate and speak louder than I do in like regular dialogue because of the because I'm cognizant of it. Because enough people are like, "What'd you say?" when I'm just talking without a mask, that I
Right.
realize there's no way they're gonna get all of the information when I'm covering up a third of my face. So
I speak from deeper in the chest. I'm like, listen.
hello. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely do that. Airbnb question. Was this
yeah,
your first time staying in an Airbnb?
ever. Yeah, I
Ever,
think so.
ever. Did you enjoy that experience? Were there any oddities or things that you expected going into it or things that you were surprised by?
No, no. A couple years ago, as we were planning a vacation up to Monterey, I Airbnb was fairly new when we were doing it. And I was like, some other people had done it before. And I said, oh, let's instead of going to hotels or whatever, let's do some Airbnbs. Let's go up there and do some Airbnbs. And Chelsea was hesitant back then about doing Airbnbs, which I get it because it was still new.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I'd always wanted to do it, and then she started wanting to do it, and then I stopped wanting to do it because then I was like, I don't know about being in somebody else's house, and then I got less adventurous. But no,
Two ships passing in the night, both in either directions towards an Airbnb.
it's weird. It's only weird in like they're not. It's not a hotel, so you're not you're not doing hotel type things like just leaving it completely trashed
Yeah,
and
yeah.
uh because they
Which
can still.
I've stayed in hotels with you, and yeah, that's sort of your mo.
I'm much better. I'm much better about
You've
because
been
I feel
proved.
bad for I feel bad for the maids and stuff like that. So I do
Yeah.
I lock the door and I say do not disturb if it's messy, and then I only let them in after I've cleaned up.
Oh, all right. Look at you. You're growing up.
I don't want I don't want to pay them money. I don't want to. It's like that's a new thing that I
It's
didn't.
it's
That's a
really
thing.
just a way for you to conserve finances. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have not yet stayed in an Airbnb. I oftentimes look at Airbnbs when I'm planning a trip, and I'm like, I did a big road trip last year where we're going through different states, and I had to kind of choreograph like our routes and where we were staying. I was like, oh, let me include Airbnbs in our search, and at the time, it didn't make sense from a financial like aspect. I wonder if the size of my family is prohibitive. Um, but it's
Hmm.
like it's also weird because most hotels only want to accommodate 4 people. So when you throw that fifth human in there, then they're like, "Whoa, you need another room, or you gotta get charged an extra arm and a leg."
Yeah.
So I'm sure at times an Airbnb would make more sense, but I don't know. It's it's just something we haven't done. I still consider it an option. I just haven't found the right haven't found the right B&B yet.
The one thing that our the house that we Airbnb'd it was a townhouse, and we didn't realize this until like basically the week before this last weekend. And the townhouse shares the pool with another house that the owners also Airbnb. So we found that out, and like, oh no, that means we're gonna have to share the pool with people. Like that kind of defeats the purpose of wanting to be away and be separate from folks. Uh, and so we got there Thursday night. We got in the pool that night. The next day, a Friday, we got in the pool for a couple hours, and then when we went off to Universal, that's when the other townhouse was populated with Airbnbers. They ended up swimming in the pool all day Saturday, and then I think they left Sunday morning. So it ended up working out, but that was a concern. Like, eh, we really need to have a place that we are, by ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
And we didn't do anything different than we would have done here
At home,
the,
yeah.
actually, maybe I watched a lot more stuff than I usually do. Usually,
Well,
I guess
it,
I'll mow the lawn.
if nothing else, you don't have that nagging in the back of your head where you're like, I mean, I could sit down and watch, this 1980s action flick, but the grass is getting a little long, and I do have to lubricate the belt on the treadmill, and which and I have to install that ceiling fan.
Tell
Yeah,
us all about your chores, Travis.
these are literally the things that I did this weekend. Yeah, we rearranged my basement a couple times. I mean we stayed at home. Like we had a long weekend, but we really stayed home for all of it. And I'm in the Midwest. I am in Omaha, Nebraska. So, marking my fourth year here. Yeah, entering into my fifth now.
Nothing against Omaha, but that's not where you want to be.
I mean, I could. My family has surprisingly grown to love the area, and it's a great place for families. But it is also a place where fireworks happen everywhere. And for a little backstory, a little like expectation management. I grew up in Southern California. I grew up in San Diego, where fireworks were only done by professional pyrotechnics teams on the 4th of July during the KGB Sky Show at the Jack Murphy Stadium or Qualcomm Stadium. And
very specific events.
Yeah, and like that was it. And
no personal
like the only like I think I like had a sparkler a couple times as a kid because someone smuggled it in from Arizona or something.
And the cops came in. They're like, "Hey, look that
a kid with a sparkler. What do you think
Where'd
you're
you
doing?"
get that?"
No bottle rockets, none of that. Like there was, I mean, and obviously some people like would go get stuff from Arizona or different places and go out to the desert. But I mean, what do you associate with Southern California? Like beaches and wildfires. So like personal fireworks were just not a thing my entire life growing up. And then even when I eventually left California and went to Oklahoma for a few years, the Oklahoma City area did not allow fireworks within certain areas where I lived. So even then, it wasn't like a normal thing where people were just firing off fireworks in front of their house. Hawaii, same deal. You could catch fireworks every weekend down in Waikiki,
Yeah,
but
right.
you're not doing them from your back porch. So the first time I'm in Omaha, we came into the area July 3rd and met up with some friends that we knew on July 4th, and they're like, "Yeah, we're just gonna do fireworks from our house," and we're like, "What? Is that legal? Can you do that?" And they're like, "Yeah, the guy down the street spent like $1,000 on fireworks. Should be a good show." And 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 we're just astounded. We're in front of these people's houses and just like fireworks going off like crazy. And we were like, we didn't know what to do. We're like, stay away from them. Aren't we supposed to be on the other side of a stadium for this? Like we can't touch. Like kids, get in the house. We want you to keep all your fingers. And so it has been a slow and steady every year, getting more and more comfortable and I don't know, excited about doing fireworks ourselves. The 3 years ago we bought a house in a neighborhood where like all restrictions were off. You could do what you want, and neighbors on both sides of us put on like legit fireworks shows where they had like racks with all these tubes, and they're like shooting things off. And so on the 3rd, that would have been Friday night, I'm out like doing some lawn maintenance, and the neighbors across the street are like, "Oh, hey, we're doing our fireworks tonight. If you guys want to come out and watch the show, come on out." And like, mind you, I'd spent like a total of like $75 on fireworks. That is me really going all out. Like, I was like, we're spending some money, and
Woo.
and
Sorry, kids, you're not gonna have that steak tartare this month.
I found out the next day the people across the street they blew up at least $1,700 worth of pyrotechnics in front of our house. Like
God, what an industry to put stocks in, man.
They were like, yeah, well, my brother bought about $1,000 worth. My sister came down; she got another $500 worth, and then this guy had a couple $100, and I'm just like,
that's crazy.
Which I believe it, because the stuff that they were setting on fire and the things that were happening in front of our house were insane. And then no, go ahead.
In comparison's sake, we spent about like $20 on glow on
like glow bracelets and
glow. A couple months ago, not for 4th of July at all, but for the hell of it. And well, here we are.
There we are. Yeah, I bought for that $70. We got 4 boxes of sparklers. Like they sell these parachutes where it shoots up in the air and explodes, and then like a little parachute comes down, right? And so the kids love those because you light a thing on fire, it explodes, and then they run down a street looking straight up and not for oncoming traffic while they try to catch a little parachute. And then we got I bought some actual bigger ones that actually it would shoot off multiple and do like some decent stuff. But around 10 o'clock on the 4th, it was like all bets were off. And it was just artillery shells for an hour on every side of us, just constant booms and blasts. And it was a little insane. And I had read an article this weekend about how the fireworks industry was actually facing shortages this year because of how many people knew that they were going to be, staying home, not going out to public gatherings, things like that. So a lot of people were, spending more money to buy fireworks for themselves, and the industry didn't really plan for that. And so there, a lot of places were going through shortages of fireworks, and I could tell because they blew them all up in my neighborhood. And it was crazy. And there's still trash everywhere on my street from all kinds of exploded cardboard and things like that. But it's one of those things that I didn't expect to like as much, but there's something fun about let me just blow this stuff up right here. And there's really cool different things, and I don't know, we all walked away with all of our fingers. Nobody got injured yet again, so I was very happy about that. And yeah, I don't know.
When I left California, I obviously I know exactly what you're saying about being a California kid and fireworks being you can't touch fireworks. Black cats, right? The little black cats. When we brought some of those back from New Mexico, and it was just like,
we're gonna get arrested and go to jail because we have these.
And you put it in a GI Joe, the old GI Joes with the rubber band.
Yep.
You stick it in there, skill, Destro's got you, and then light it and be like, look at that! Wow, it's fun.
You're essentially Sid from from the first Toy Story movie.
Yeah, I didn't do that. No, because I was still too young to do that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
my uncle and my older brother. Shout out to those little aliens. But yeah, like just like illegal. They were legal. And
Yeah.
when I left California, I was 18. I get to Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas, and I'm with a couple friends who they're in their mid 20s at this point in time, and they are lighting off these big ass fireworks. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Oh, and then I'm driving one of my friends home who's drunk, and then like I'm talking to Chelsea on the phone. We're not married at that point in time, and I'm like 20 at this point. And then he's like smoking in the truck as I'm driving him. I'm dumb, and I have fireworks in the center console, a bunch of bottle rockets and all that type of shit because I don't know fireworks safety, right? And so like, yeah, they're in
I
there.
wasn't raised with this stuff. What do I know? What do I know about smoking near fireworks?
And all of a sudden, there's smoke filling the cab of my truck, and I look down, and the fireworks are starting to go off, and then my 2003 or 2004 Chevy S10 burns to the ground in front of my eyes, and so that was my first experience with like freedom fireworks, right? Uh, a couple years later, after Chelsea and I get married, like in Oklahoma, her parents would do like fireworks displays, and I wasn't there for this, but they talked about like one of the fireworks like launched off, but like launched into the garage, and everyone's like, "Oh God!" and trying to put it out. Like that's crazy. One of my friends from high school, Kenneth Bywater, who gave
Nice
me
name drop. Shout out to Kenneth.
yeah, he's a great tattoo artist. He's given me two of my tattoos. Well, one of my tattoos, but it was like two different sessions. Anyways, I owe him money because I didn't realize also because I was younger and I was dumb and I was like, oh, I didn't realize I should support artists more than what I'm doing. Anyways, he a couple years back, 3 years ago, as a matter of fact, he was up in Washington, I think, and he was at some kind of like parking lot kind of area where they were launching mortars and they were doing fireworks in that way. And he wasn't actually shooting the fireworks at this point in time, but one of the mortars, like the industrial grade ones, like tipped over and fell over, and it shot him in the fucking stomach. And he was messed up for many months, and like had to like we were afraid that he wasn't gonna make it for a while. But he's good now, but yeah, it was just ooh. So when I think of fireworks and I think of like doing it, I'm very even with a sparkler, I'm like okay, all right, son, I'll light this for you. I'll light this for you.
Yeah, I definitely, and there's certain stuff that you can buy at the like fireworks stands where I'm like, I don't think we're gonna get those. That seems like it could be a little iffy. And even the neighbors across the street, like they brought out like this big like wooden like rack thing where I had seen them like loading it themselves. It was just like a bunch of tubes, and it was definitely like where they were just gonna shoot up and go off, and it was gonna be a big thig. But like the first one that comes out of there, it only goes up like maybe 20 feet. and it's a big boom, right? And I'm like, that probably should have gone higher. And then the next one goes, and it was like the same height. And all of them like don't go as high as they should have gone. And like the second or third one, like after it like blows, a piece comes like sort of straight towards Sheena, and so she's like, "Huh!" and she like goes into the garage, and I'm just kind of sitting there in the driveway, just like, well, either it happens or it doesn't, but I'm just gonna sit here and they went and everybody was fine, but that was the only one where we were like, oh, that was a little iffy. All the rest of them, they come in these like giant boxes where everything is pre-done and you light a corner or something, and then huge shows happen. And which is really impressive how those things are engineered and that they can, sell it all self-contained like that. But yeah,
Just
I,
don't shoot Roman candles at each other.
yeah,
You're gonna
be safe.
you're gonna hurt. You're
Be
gonna
smart.
hurt.
You talk about those like black cats, those like, and I'm like, I never even touched one of those when I was a kid. And then I've got the native Nebraskan living 2 houses down who's got like a giant roll of them, and he's just holding the roll and like dancing in circles in the street as it's like pop 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 pop, pop, and he's like and then like throw that, and I'm just like, all right, cool, good for you guys.
I just know that I would lose my hand if I tried to do that. Just bad luck.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. We'll see if we have another year. Maybe I'll bump my price up to a cool hundo, and we'll blow up even more stuff, or maybe not. Maybe we'll do something different. But that was our fourth, in acknowledgement of the independence of our nation. But I will say this. That the festivities did not kick off for my family on the 4th. Definitely the 3rd was almost a bigger day for us, because along with that amazing fireworks display, we also got the release of Hamilton on Disney Plus. That's right. We actually were planning the festivities for this probably longer than we were our actual 4th of July festivities. I rearranged my basement with my projector so that I could create a large movie theater experience with the best audio I could, because my surround sound is still in the basement. And and we were hyped for the Hamill film, if you will, released on Disney Plus. I was doing a little bit of research and realized that my affinity for the Hamilton production dates back over 4 years now. I was first introduced to the show in the fall of 2016, and the reason I know that is because I remember quoting lines from the play on election night, talking about "you don't have the votes, and then that guy became president. So it was hit or miss. But then
I sang "Handlebars" by the Flowbots. That's the song I sang election night 2016.
Yeah, and then we went and hung out for a guys trip out in Colorado in February of 2017, and I remember driving. I remember driving. We were driving around Colorado Springs, and I was trying to get you to listen to songs from Hamilton. And you're like, "No, turn something else on." And then I remember driving from Colorado Springs up to Denver to catch a flight, and listening to Hamilton. Like, it was almost the exact length of the soundtrack, that drive door to door, and it was perfect. So yeah, so I've listened to the music for a really long time. I'm not like a crazy musical theater guy, but I appreciate musical theater like enough. Not enough to actually fork out the hundreds of dollars that it would have taken for me to go and actually see Hamilton when the traveling production came to Omaha last year. However, my daughter got to go see it, and she's a crazy huge. Her life is musical theater. She's taking classes. That's like, and Hamilton's actually probably at least at fault for that, because that was one of the first musicals that she sort of got into. So everyone's a Hamilton superfan. Everybody knows it, right? Rachel? Yeah. Everybody? Okay. So Brandon, there's sort of been like a thing between you and me and just you and this production, where you've always been anti-Hamilton. You've been a Hamilton hater. And I want to start with why. Like what was the reason? What is it just musicals in general? You're like, no, or was there something specific about this one? Like, let's
Uh,
let's 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 get let's get into these tough questions.
first things first. $2,000, as Rachel and Justin are talking about in the chat, to see Hamilton live. Like, come on. Like, no, like, you got the money. That's like, that's something you want to see. That's great. Like, here's kind of where that comes in my opinion of Hamilton. There's nothing to me that says I need to spend that lump sum of money to see Hamilton live. Um, like, be, so here's the I guess, how do I want to shape this?
You just
I
no spin, no spin. You just say what's in your heart,
No,
Britt.
I'm not spinning it. I'm not spinning anything. What I want to say is, okay. Well, we'll go back to your initial question. Like, what is my feeling on Hamilton? Uh, it was
Like, what was your resistance to it? Why
you.
why were you against?
I was in musicals as a kid.
Okay.
I was in musical theater. I was a thespian. I was part of the thespian society. I was I was the
You were
grandfather.
walking the boards and doing choreography and yeah.
I was the grandfather in Pajama Game. You know,
A regular rum tum tugger you were.
I like, doing that stuff is fun. But I've always, and I think when we talked about like La La Land,
Mhm.
back in the day, I said then that I'm not really a huge musical guy. There's something about musicals that are just, there's fans of it, and I completely agree why, I understand why they're fans of it, but I'm not that.
Yeah.
There's something cheesy to me about it, and when I watch a movie, like, I like the verisimilitude that it provides to me, some sort of like reality to it.
I think I
Sometimes I
I think we're crossing a threshold here where I realize that my I'm as okay with like musicals and even animated musicals as you are with like horror. Like like
Oh
it's
yeah,
not horror's not for everybody. Like I appreciate people that like it. It's not necessarily my thing, but I it's just not something
yeah,
that I choose to watch. And it's the same with you and when somebody
yeah.
breaks into song randomly talking about being 16 going on 17 or whatever
There-
it might be.
yeah, I appreciate the craft, the work, the production aspects of musicals, and how much work goes into it. I completely admire that, and even the some cinematic ways that, they do it with the blocking and the staging and the lighting, all that stuff is it's a lot of hard work, and I appreciate that. And so when you played me the music to Hamilton, which, by the way, I I I go back to this. I don't think Lin Manuel Miranda is the greatest lyricist of our time, and I get so sick of hearing him rhyme words with the same words as if they're rhyming with different words.
Sure,
Like
sure.
that part, like, irks me a little bit. Where it's like, just wait, just a minute. I'm talking just a minute. You got a minute? Uh-uh. We ain't got time for a minute. Like, no, you said the same word. It doesn't make it a
Yeah.
rhyme if you just repeat. Anyway,
It
uh,
literally in our notes to for this topic, I just wrote the $10 founding father without a father, like rhyming the same words. I mean dollar and father, I guess, but
yeah,
those
yeah.
don't really
And,
rhyme. That's like
I mean,
that's like a Harmontown rhyme almost.
I'm not a rapper. I'm not a lyricist. But there's certain things that I stick with. Anyways, but the music is great, and um, so going into having you make me listen to the music, and I hear it without context. I don't have the visuals. I don't have any of that this extra stuff. All I have is the music itself, which is fantastic, but then the lyrics, which I'm like, this that I'm not impressed by what I'm hearing right
Sure. Yeah,
now.
and I will admit my early exposure to Hamilton was I I wasn't like super impressed at first because the first time I saw it was my sister-in-law with like a bootleg copy that someone had filmed on like a cell phone or something up in a balcony in the Richard Rodgers Theater, and like where they're like putting it down in their lap like after every song so as to not get caught or whatever, and like the focus is all like in and out and you can only understand like some of the lyrics. And so like I watched that with her because she was like, "This is amazing. You got to watch it. It's gonna be great." And I was like, "Okay, like I can't hear half of it. I don't really understand the context." I think I was like, I don't know, we were doing something else at the time as we were watching it, and then I listened to the soundtrack itself, and probably a few times, and actually like listened to the lyrics a little bit more, and my exposure to the musical was more through Spotify and hearing the dialogue through that. So and then I've watched other like documentaries about the making of it and things like that, but I haven't actually watched the full performance. And I kind of was waiting for this version to come out. I knew there might be an opportunity to go see it live, but I wanted to see the original cast performance um, in a full quality production and not something that someone had hidden camera style. And so this was for me. This is going to be the opportunity to see that within that context, but um, it wasn't something where I was like gonna see something I didn't already know because I pretty much have most of the soundtrack memorized at this point anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, I was still excited to see the full production, and it almost for me pick up on things that I almost like I'd seen it multiple times because I'm not hyper focused on what's being said, which
Yeah.
allows me to focus more on the choreography or the way certain characters are interacting with each other and things like that.
We as you know, the Cruise family watches everything in subtitles. So
Yes.
thankfully the subtitles were on as we were watching Hamilton. And we kind of said to each other, and Chelsea is as much as much opposed to actually watching it as I was. But I was the one who was like, we got 4 hours to kill. Let's go ahead and knock it out.
let's let's just do it. Let's just do it so that so people leave us alone.
So we watched it with subtitles and said to ourselves like, well, like it's really good we have the subtitles that we understand actually what's being said here, because what Chelsea was saying after we finished watching it was, of course the music is great, but the the historical context of it, the historical accuracy of what was being said, like that was more interesting because she
Mm-hmm.
felt like she learned something after the fact.
Absolutely.
And I appreciated that as well. Um, I can get into one of the issues I kind of have
Yeah,
at the end.
let's kind of pick it apart with whatever time we have left. I want to
Yeah,
know like you actually sat through and watched it, so I want
yeah.
to know things you liked, things you didn't like. Yeah, just because I'll just say I enjoyed it. It was good. Jonathan Groff's spit was a highlight for me.
From
And
Mindhunter, he's
from
he's he's
Mindhunter.
on he's on that Netflix show Mindhunter.
Is he? He's
Uh,
also the voice of Kristoff in Frozen,
yeah.
another musical that you
Well,
probably
you
haven't
know me. I
seen.
like serial killers more than I like
It's
musicals.
true. We found our corners that we're gonna sit in. But yeah, yeah, lay it on me.
Uh, okay. Here, what I liked was that the going back to the production aspects of it. Like I think it's really cool. Like the spinning
The like
this
turntable on the stage. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because in a lot of plays, lots of musicals, when the stage is static and people are walking across, uh, it it keeps a lot of people like the actors looking at the audience as kind of like, now we're monologuing, like we're
Yeah.
walking along but we're monologuing. And with the spinning stage, it let people be like on a little treadmill, and it kept a pace to it, a momentum. So I like that. Uh, the the rap battles, I'm not, again, I'm not a lyricist, but
Yeah.
uh, the historical accuracy. I'll get the things that I didn't like out of the way real quick.
Sure. Sure.
Chelsea didn't like the dancers. She was like, they seemed kind of clunky, like the background dancers. So I just threw that out there for her. I will say,
I had the complete opposite opinion about the ensemble cast, and
oh,
I feel like they were one of the highlights for me in the first time. We've watched it like 3 times in my house since it came out, because my kids just keep watching it.
that's
'Cause,
incredible. That's
um,
incredible.
we haven't like sat down, like not sat down and watched it 3 times. We all sat down to watch it once, and then
Oh,
the kids just put it back on,
uh,
and it's just
okay, all
on
right.
in the house. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll say this, and I think this is well known, and I think everyone accepts this. Lin Manuel Miranda is the worst performer that's on stage at any given point in time. Like he's the star of the show, but he's not the star of the show. He's not the most talented one who's actually there present.
Sure,
Uh,
sure. Which what's his name? Leslie Odom Jr. I think, who plays Aaron Burr. He actually won the Tony for like best male actor or whatever that year. And his performance, I think, is outstanding. Kind of in comparison to Lin Manuel Miranda's portrayal
yeah.
of Hamilton.
Well, like the Jefferson, Washington, all these other voices that are out there. They have very, very good voices. That's a positive. Like their voices are beautiful. Dare I say it? Dare I say the B word? They're beautiful voices, and uh, LMM's crying voice, crying singing voice, like,
Yeah.
oh god,
Which
oh,
he doesn't go that like distraught. Oh, that's Brandon. He doesn't
doesn't cry, doesn't cry.
he doesn't get to that same sort of breakdown in like the recording sessions for the soundtrack. So it was interesting to hear the difference in the performance on stage versus the audio recordings. And he definitely does like get into that crying voice a little bit more in this performance, and I was like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah. Yeah, that wasn't my
Well,
favorite part for sure. Yeah.
it's not a highlight, and that's not a
Yeah.
highlight of
Yeah.
the show for you. Um, so let me ask you this, because this will affect how I feel about this. I liked the historical pieces of it, and then the final song talking about legacy, and talking about tell the story, and it's obviously talking about um, what's her face, his wife,
Yeah. Eliza.
Eliza.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the song ends with like, who's going to tell my story, and then it's her, and then it fades to black, and then curtain call, right? Um, is that meant to be like the Hamilton that we're actually talking about? It like we're at we this is in a way to tell her story. Is that what that's supposed to mean?
I don't know. So there's a weird thing, because the actual play ends with that sort of like death scream from her. She screams at the end, which is supposed to symbolize her death and her joining Hamilton on the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is not in the audio recordings for the soundtrack. That the it just who lives, who dies, who tells your story fades out, and End of track, repeat to first song, bump ba da da dum bump.
Huh.
And so that was actually a little jarring for me because I didn't know that was gonna be there, and it kind of left me thinking about sort of what you're talking about. I've always listened to that song with sort of the thought of, um, like her the things that she did. She lived much longer than Alexander Hamilton did, and she sort of fulfilled a lot of things and sort of ensured his legacy beyond what he was capable of doing on his own. The orphanage that she started is still like actually an adoption like organization in the United States, and a lot of those things she ensured his legacy, but that is also her legacy, right? Those are the things that she did and continued to do, for her husband and for herself. And I think it's good that that song highlights all of those things and shows that she wasn't just Hamilton's wife,
Hmm.
but she actually went on and did a lot of great things in her own right, and was not just a support to this founding father, but actually, went and did a lot of great things herself. So yeah, I don't. I think. I think it's. I've listened to that song a multitude of ways in terms of like thinking about it personally, like my legacy and what that means within my family and how I raise my kids, and like setting them up for success in the future, and what I do career wise and what I do with a podcast and all kinds of different things. But, also just like, I don't know, like what it means for Hamilton, and just the fact that we are talking about him. This play, this musical, talks about a before this play came out, like people weren't like really hyped on Hamilton or who he was.
No.
He didn't get a lot of recognition. So it is almost meta in that way that it talks about his legacy and what he did for the the forming of our government and our political system and everything else. So
Yeah, yeah. I guess the reason I bring up that last song, particularly in the screen adaptation of it, is with it ending on her, and that to to me that's a like it's supposed to signify the importance of her throughout the entire thing. Like the entire show then ends on her, Hamilton, right?
mm-hmm.
Eliza Hamilton.
Yeah.
And what does that mean for the context for the rest of the play? Because that's what the last song, it's supposed to sum everything up, right? That's the point of the last song, is like, what is the theme of the entire play, musical, and what do you want to leave your viewers thinking about when they leave?
Yeah, and
When
that last song goes, because at this point Hamilton is dead, but even his biggest rivals in the story are kind of giving him credit throughout that song. You have Jefferson talking about his financial plan that, you know, really set this country on a trajectory for success, and like you have, I don't think Washington says anything. Who like there's a couple other people that talk about stuff that he did, and then
yeah,
it
Bert
really,
talks about himself.
well, yeah, and yeah, so but then it really transitions into her and everything that she did to kind of carry on that, all of that stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So that if depending on how it is viewed, um, the critique I have is if it was meant to if it was meant to be like, yes, we were talking about Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton throughout the thing, but we're also now we're also talking about Eliza Hamilton. Like the Hamilton is more than one Hamilton. It's more than that because it ends on her.
yeah,
Then it didn't do enough throughout the show to me to have that be important.
I think the idea is it's the legacy of Alexander Hamilton, but you can't remove Eliza Hamilton from that story and do it justice. Like her efforts past his death helped to solidify his impact and the things that and much of what we know about him and about what he did was through her efforts and the things that she went and talked to all the soldiers that fought with him and all of these things and sort of secured his legacy. So I think it's really supposed to be about him, but then giving her credit in the end for all that she did as well.
Okay, all right. I do.
Travis Chenard, a podcast legacy musical. Thank you, Justin.
Justin brings that up. I want to bring up what Rachel just said. Really wants to know if either of us teared up.
Are you an emotional guy, Brandon?
I am. You know what I get emotional about, Travis? I don't cry about
the
much.
Federalist Papers. Is it about the Federalist Papers? He
No,
wrote the other 51.
About him writing 91 pages about cheating on his wife. Like, come on, come on,
the
man.
The Reynolds pamphlet.
Don't tell anybody.
Just highlights. Anyway, I will tell you, Rachel.
I cried for him.
I have cried to this musical on numerous occasions, more than once in my car, on my commute, listening to certain songs. Because I'm an emotional guy. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And, I fully expected to cry numerous times watching it, like the real deal, up on the big screen in my off my projector. And there was really only one time where I got emotional and my eyes got wet. And that was in the unimaginable. It's the song after Hamilton's son dies, and they're both mourning.
Is that the Quiet Town song?
It's Quiet Uptown. Yeah.
Quiet Uptown.
Yeah. They're standing together in the garden. Eliza takes Alexander's hand or whatever.
Are you getting choked up right now?
No, I'm good. I'm fine, Brandon. I'm fine.
I could.
Yeah, that was the part. That was the part this time that really got to me. But yeah, otherwise I didn't cry on Friday while watching it. Except for
I can't tell you the last. I could if I took some time to think about it, but I can't tell you the last time I actually cried at watching something. I always get kind of like, if like somebody asks me a question, I'll be like, and so it's fun.
Yeah.
But I would say with any media, if there's watching Minority Report, like if there's anything that is
did you cry during Minority Report?
Every time. I mean, I didn't cry, but I get wet-eyed.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a father and a son, and then there's something that happens there, because I only have a son. And so that always strikes me. So yes, during quiet Uptown, that
you got misty.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got that lump in the throat. It was like, yeah, man, I feel you, man.
You gotta teach your kid how to count in French now.
Chelsea asked.
She's like, the melody every time.
Let's talk about the duels.
Yeah, 10 Duel Commandments. There's gonna be a 2-hour podcast. I've been waiting my whole life for you to watch this musical.
She was like, why do they point up in the sky and shoot? Like because they're not actually trying to do.
For starters, can we agree that duels are dumb and immature? Sure.
Shut up. I'm not.
I know Rachel is getting so many of these drops. And other listeners, when my mom goes back and listens to this episode, she's gonna love this part as well.
Okay, sir. Sure, sir.
Yeah, I had to explain the same conversation with my daughter because she's like, so why did he he's like he said, Philip, don't throw away your shot or whatever. Or no, what was she? She was saying there's a line where he says, your mother can't take another heartbreak. But then he tells his son to point at the sky, and my daughter was so confused. She's like, why is he telling him to point at the sky, but she can't take another heartbreak? And I'm like, well, his expectation is this other guy's a man of honor. He's gonna see his pistol in the sky, and he's be like, oh, okay, we're not actually shooting each other. This is more of pomp and circumstance for, you know, I challenge you, and I don't. Neither of us really need to die, but I can't let you talk crap about my dad. So I'm gonna show up, but I'm not gonna try and kill you. And
Yeah.
my daughter probably has the same feeling most people have, which is like, that seems dumb. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, he took his shot, and that's what happened.
yeah.
You know.
Don't throw away your shot. That's important. You got to remember that.
Well,
Yeah.
like there's a whole honor thing, and then whatever.
And
Anyway,
it's historical fan fiction. Like, can we admit that not everything in this play is historically accurate? There are issues with some of
Everything
the
is.
things. And
They were all singing. They were all dancing. George Washington was black. These are all historical.
all extremely, and that's something I think everybody needs to realize, is that it is a musical. It is not a historical documentary.
And if it gets people to be more interested in our history, that, to me, that's the ultimate thing that is important about the musical stuff aside that I don't like. uh Production stuff, which is amazing. The fact that I learned something and I'm interested into knowing more about Hamilton and his life, and finding more about Eliza, and all the stuff that went on. Like, yeah, that's the real benefit of having watched this.
I had to
Uh,
look back on my shelf here to see if the Hamilton biography, which inspired the musical, was on this bookshelf or upstairs. I think it's upstairs, actually.
yeah.
But yeah, and I own a
There's-
copy of the Federalist Papers. That's something that's in my home.
What?
I didn't buy it myself. It was a gift, but
It's kind of weird.
yeah, I know. I own that, and that's Lin Manuel
Hmm.
Miranda's fault. So
Yeah, I do hear, and you can attest to this, that on Spotify he's annotated all of the lyrics, like with a Song Genius or whatever.
Oh,
Is that
I don't know. I haven't actually looked into that ever.
I read that on a podcast forum that I'm on, saying that yeah, like on Spotify he's annotated all the lyrics with additional information.
My daughter has the Hamilton Revolution songbook. It's a gorgeous book that talks a lot about what went into making the musical. It has a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and then it has all the lyrics, and he's annotated lyrics in that book as well, where there's footnotes and commentary about specific lines and different songs and things like that. So yeah, I would say that my daughter has probably taken the top seat in the house in terms of Hamilton fandom. The highlight of our road trip last year was just standing in front of the Richard Rodgers Theater in New York City. It was probably up there on the list for me as well. But it was like, that was one of those things where I felt like, all right, if we're gonna be in that part of the world, we at least have to stop in New York City and go on Broadway, because her world is musical theater right now. So
Yeah.
that was an opportunity for her to just be like, wow. Did I take her to a play? No, because I'm a terrible, cheap father. But next time,
Next
the
the last thing I want to shout out to musical theater here. The last thing I actually cried at, like musical theater wise, was Chelsea and I went and saw Phantom of the Opera down in town, and not necessarily because Phantom of the Opera content wise is saddening, but my departed uncle used to love Phantom of the Opera, and so seeing that, and then like being there in the the up up on top, and then seeing it down there and hearing the music, then I was like, oh shit, there it is. There,
Oh, feelings are happening.
and I said,
Yeah.
don't look at me, Chelsea, I'm a monster, and I put the mask back on.
Yeah, I am very excited that this film is out. I I'm very interested to hear what lots of people think about it that are newly exposed to it. And I'm curious to see how people's opinions develop or change over time. My mother-in-law watched it and was just kind of like, I didn't understand a lot of what they were saying. So she didn't like really get it. And that's
but
fine.
but then she gave it another shot. And
Brandon. Oh, Brandon. You're gonna get so many of my jokes now. It's gonna be great. But yeah, I don't know. And then ultimately, one day, hopefully, as a grandfather, I will get to watch the middle school play version of Hamilton when this finally like gets to that level of cultural saturation where middle schoolers are doing edited versions of the 10 dual commandments and things like that. And they all they all had to make their own colonial costumes and things like
I
that.
I sincerely hope that your daughter gets to play as Thomas Jefferson.
She
Is
would love it. She would love it. And
Yeah,
Lafayette. Yeah.
yeah,
The
so good.
the Lancelot of the Revolutionary set. All right, guys.
All right,
That we've gone
that's
well
it.
over time. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully, you guys, if you're in the U.S., you had a safe and pleasant 4th of July. Remember that here in America, things are not perfect. So
Keep
we all have a lot of things we can do a lot better. And hopefully, this weekend, while you were celebrating, you also took some time to reflect on ways that we can all improve. Whether that's through social justice or just wearing a mask and taking care of each other and looking out for each other. Hopefully, you guys are staying safe. And yeah, we appreciate you guys downloading, listening, watching us live, and any way that you consume this. We're just happy you're here. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're gonna go do our after show now. We're gonna hang out with the few of you that are still hanging out, hanging on. We're gonna just sing Hamilton songs and reminisce. So make sure that you catch us Monday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central for our live streams. And until next time, I'm Travis.
And I'm Brandon, and thank you so much for hanging out. And don't miss your legacy, your shot.
Brandon, I'm so
I
happy.
don't like the song.
Oh, it's hot in here. It's hot. I need to get a beverage.
Woo, woo! Let me stop that recording. Woo!
It's planting flowers in a garden you don't get to see.
Yeah. Going back to the Universal talk, you asked me like how busy it was, and I just happen to be wearing the shirt that I have from Microsoft Ignite, which is it's like a 4-day Microsoft conference, and they have it in Orlando, and then they rent out one of the parks. They rented out Universal one of those nights,
Yeah,
and that's about how busy it was for like Universal attendees or Microsoft attendees. Oh my God, they're gonna start submitted for your approval. Hey,
I will say the first episode, one of my favorites. Submitted for your approval, and also any other episode that I'm on, which is like 3 or 4.
it took me half a second to be like, what was the first episode? Yeah, submitted for your approval. The next episode that we're gonna do is actually one with
Oh, that's right. I forgot you asked me to do another one. I need to watch an episode.
yeah. Oh my God. Oh
Yeah. So, yeah.
fuck.
What is going on with your light, Brandon? Jeez. I completely moved my my fan out of here for weekend shenanigans, and It's hot.
Uh,
It is warm in here.
you know, maybe for the next submitted for your approval, I'll try to put a bunch of images and stuff together for you, and then we could talk about that on a stream. Just be like, hey, this is how S4YA goes. Look at Brandon producing his own
You're
podcast.
talking about for apathetic enthusiasm. Talk about producing S4YA.
No, no, no. Like for that episode that
Oh.
that I have to do, that I have to release, that you're going to do with me.
Oh yeah, sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have to do it. Doesn't have to be an AE.
You're just talking. Oh, you're just talking about promotional photos for.
Yeah, yeah. We
podcast.
could just stream it. We could just stream that one as an additional thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can make a one of these little background things. No problem. No problem. It's nothing. It's nothing. Have we heard of the dancing hysteria?
I haven't. I've heard of listeria. I think you get that from like deli meats when you're pregnant.
I can't confirm or deny that. And
wait, you D-Squeeze, you were at Universal on Friday? No,
were you guys there at the same time?
I think we were. You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. If you weren't at Islands of Adventure, you probably missed me. We were third in line. Well, you missed the podcast. We were third in line at Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure.
So I know that your son wasn't crazy about it. What did you think of it?
Oh man, I loved it. We actually we got a picture of it because so you're on a motorbike and there's a bike and then there's a sidecar.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two people per car. And then Chelsea was behind us and she was on the motorcycle part. And so me and my son, we were together, took a picture, and like he's like just in the picture, and I'm like and so get a good picture of it. No, I liked it a lot. Would I say it's worth the wait? I think it was worth the wait that we put into it this weekend. Like when it's a 6-hour wait like that, man, like oh god, it's so bad.
6 hours for that thing?
It would like the first day, the first like weekend it opened, it was longer than that. I think it was like,
but and maybe D Squeeze can help us out with this because like what are the average wait times on that ride right now? Because like, which I guess is hard with COVID and stuff. Like, okay, pre-COVID, what were we talking for average wait times? Because the like Flight of Passage, which is the highlight attraction at Disney World, but has been around for like a couple years now, I think. That still can average 2 to 3 hour wait times peak seasons, and I'm like, and then to the point where the Star Wars stuff, they had to come up with a completely different system for that because they weren't going to have people waiting around that long. So yeah, that's insane to me that people are, I don't know, waiting that long for one attraction. I couldn't do it as cool as it would be. And I guess that's why I like that there's like fast pass systems and stuff in place for at least at Disney, where you can either get things in advance or at least plan your day a little bit better, so you can be like, all right, we're gonna ride it, but we're not gonna ride it till 6 p.m. because we're gonna come back and we're gonna have a spot in line, and maybe even if you have to wait 30-40 minutes in a fast pass line, that's still better than 2, 3, 4 hours.
Yeah. We Universal closes at 7, right? And when the lightning hit and the rain came down and everyone dispersed, we got back in line, and right away the people, the cast members, they're like, hey, we don't know how long this ride's gonna be closed, but it is in fact closed for a while. And Chelsea and I looked at each other. We're like, no, we're not. We're waiting. We're not coming back to this. We're not coming back. We're gonna wait till this is done. And that was a risk, right? Because if there was any lightning at all ever again that night, it would have been done.
Yeah.
Plus, it was already like 4:15, a couple hours later. So and then then the cast members are always like really trying to diffuse the line and scatter the people that are waiting that they don't need to be waiting. And they're like, we don't know when it's going to open up again. You can do your virtual line, check in and take a picture of it, and you come back. And we're like, no, we're not going to do that. I did do the virtual line, and I checked in. I'm okay. It says 5:40 to 6:30. That's when we have our virtual line, but we're not moving from the spot. And so Chelsea and I kept like rotating because it was hot as hell in the sun, and it was just rained, and so now it was getting muggy too. And I passed the time by taking time lapse. I would step in the water, and I'd step on a dry piece of land, and I'd move my foot, and that would take my phone, my iPhone, and time lapse to see how long how long it would take for the water to dry. And I did that 3 times. It took about 4.5 minutes per.
You sent me one of those time lapse photos. I remember seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then and eventually it opened up, and but man, like it was. That's the only thing we went on. But we did get passes. Because we were on the very very first set of cars that went up. The cast members, when we got off the ride, they gave us 3 free ride tickets, so we can like get on any ride like instantly, basically.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So if we ever go back, if COVID ever disappears before September, then we might go back and hop on a ride.
That's cool. That's cool. Art now. Side question, because I know you had plans in a pre-COVID world to roll like Disney passes, or at least a Disney trip into your plans while you're in Florida. Are those still there, or I mean, are they, or have those been affected in any way by
So
like, are you guys still planning to do Disney while you're in Florida?
we want to.
You're gonna break my heart if you don't.
No, I mean we have to, but the thing is, man, like maybe if our government was better at taking care of COVID, and if our populace was better at not wanting to just open up everything right away,
Yeah.
despite the best advice from the the World Health Organization, then yeah, we'd absolutely love to get in there. But I don't know how long it's going to be. Like
Yeah.
Fauci just said, we're still in wave one. We're knee deep in wave one still. Well, I mean, I don't know if we're going to get a chance. I would like to,
Yeah. Yeah.
but who knows? Who
Yeah,
knows if,
I
I
fully
might
appreciate
I might
that
get there.
response.
I might get there in like one of the cast members in a Mickey costume might just be like on a ventilator. Like I don't want to see that.
Nobody wants to see that. Just like nobody wants to see my file explorer pop up in front of our faces when I'm trying to upload audio.
Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, new Jurassic Park ride. Always a good IP to pull from. Straight across the lake. Yeah, I have never been to a Universal Park in Florida, and they sound pretty excellent. I think the next time we make a Florida trip that is theme park related, we'll have to carve out time for that, because I almost made an argument for it this time, this last trip, but then I was like, no, we're doing all Disney. It's all like we we took the Disney bus from the airport, and we did not leave Disney bubble until we got back to the Orlando airport. So, yeah, but it seems like they're doing really good stuff out there.
Yeah, I think I like Islands Adventure more than I like regular Universal Studios. And I say that knowing that Simpsons Land is out at Universal Studios, uh, the Universal side, um, because they're just playing Simpsons clips all the time, and it just, especially now that I'm watching Simpsons in 16:3 aspect ratio on Disney Plus, it's just got all those clips. It's just so great. But Islands of Adventure has Hulk, has the Doctor Doom fall, it has a good Spider-Man ride. It has Hagrid's. I guess that's it. No, you know what? I like the other side better. But Universal, the thing about Universal is they have a lot of motion based rides where it's just, you know how like, you know, Star Tours is. They have a
Yeah, yeah,
lot.
like simulator type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking about the Mummy with D Squeeze here. The Mummy is a great. That's a coaster ride. That's fun. They have like the Jimmy Fallon ride, roller coaster on Universal side. They have this like rock and roll ride where you choose the song that you want to listen to as you're going down the roller coaster, and the whole line is it's showing you all the different types of track. They have R&B, they have classic rock, they have disco, they have modern rock, and then you like as a ride starting, you're like, oh god, 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 I want to listen to Staying Alive, you know. Um,
Like
so
as the ride is starting, so you're like,
yeah, it's a roller coaster. So like, you know, you're going on a track, and it's like pick your track now, and then you go, tick, 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 tick. And then as you start going down, that's when it's like shake, 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 shake your booty, shake. I had to pick the disco song. That's all I remember.
all right, all right. Yeah, did
Uh,
you do a lot of Universal Hollywood growing up a SoCal kid?
I a handful of times. I went maybe two or three times to see Jaws. Backdraft. Backdraft was there for years and years and years and years and years and
Yeah.
years. Um, the did I do Back to the Future? I don't know if I did Back to the Future. E.T.
ET classic.
Yeah.
Um, had the Jurassic Park drop right out there for a while. Uh, that spot, I think I've only been to Universal in California twice, but the second time was I met Sheena's family up there, and that was the restart of our relationship when we officially started dating again,
Yeah.
and that was after the last time that we broke up. So Universal is the last time I was single technically in my life. So yeah, but that place was a lot of fun. And then I mean we went to Disney like crazy as we were dating. So
Yeah. D Squeeze mentions Dudley Do Rights and Popeyes. Dudley Do Rights, and those are both water rides. Do Rights is like just like a log ride, and then you get wet. And then Popeyes is like a Roaring Rapids slash Bigfoot Rapids if you've been to Knott's Berry Farm. Um, that's just kind of standard. You know, you're on a circle boat and then
yeah.
under waterfalls and stuff like that. Uh, my kid and Chelsea don't like those rides because you get wet on them. And we just like I told him like we're gonna go on that ride as when we go there. You just got out of the pool. It's fine. Just wear your swimming trunks. We'll be fine. But they don't like those rides. So we always we always skip past them.
We bought like the plastic ponchos for our Disney trip in Florida because everybody like all the stuff we saw they kept saying it rains randomly and it'll rain like almost daily sometimes, and so just be ready that it'll probably rain at some point during your Disney vacation. And so we're like, all right, we'll be ready. We'll bring these ponchos. We won't let it affect us. It sprinkled once one day for a few minutes. Didn't rain the rest of the trip. And our fourth day was at Animal Kingdom, and I've been carrying around these ponchos in my backpack for like 3 days. And we're like, when we went on that River Rapids ride at Animal Kingdom, we're like, let's do it. Let's bust out the ponchos. So we all put our plastic, trash bag ponchos on to ride that water ride. And then even though we'd like ridden Splash Mountain like 3 days prior, like 3 or 4 times, never once wore the poncho, getting wet like each and every time. So yeah, it's good times.
Yeah.
Speaking of Splash Mountain, soon to be an extinct attraction. Getting a, what are they calling it? Not a rebranding. They're a plussing. That's what Walt used to call it, a plussing, by improving the attraction to add to retheme it to Princess and the Frog sometime in the future. They really haven't set dates yet.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't have much to say about that other than, yeah, good. It's not, it's that's a ride that I had always been a little perplexed on,
Yeah.
that Disney would not let that movie out of the vault, yet they themed an entire ride around it
Well,
in the
that
90s. Like
it's
that ride came out in the 90s.
yeah, I mean it's been there around for over 30 years, so yeah, like 90s. Well, and the reason that ride was, I feel like it was a theming of convenience, cuz there was an attraction in Disneyland called America Sings, which played in the Circle Theater, sort of like how um, the Carousel of Progress is in Florida, and it had a bunch of animatronic characters in it that were all these like animals and stuff. And so they closed down America Sings, and they had all these animatronic characters, and like, what are we gonna do with them? So Imagineering legend Tony Baxter was the lead Imagineer on Splash Mountain, and he's like, oh well, we could build this ride, and we could do a log ride, we can use, yeah. So they had to make the animatronics for Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox and all those guys. But yeah, it's still interesting, and it's really a weird conversation for me to have with my kids, where my son, we took this trip last year. He had never ridden Splash Mountain before. Rode it at Disney World, loved it. It immediately became his favorite ride, in part because he liked the characters and stuff. In no way any sort of racial connotations or anything like that. He doesn't know the history of it, or about the film. And the reality is, I only know what I've like seen or read about on the internet, because I've never seen Song of the South, because it's been blacklisted and not available for purchase in the U.S. my entire life.
Yes.
So, I mean, aside from one sing along video that we had like a VHS copy of as a kid that had Zippity Doodah like on it, that's the total of that film that I've seen. And
Is that the same one with Ugly Bug Ball on it?
it very well could. I would not doubt it for a second.
That's a great song.
It's classic stuff.
To the
Um,
ball, to the ugly bug ball.
but I mean, yeah, if the original source material you're trying to erase from existence, maybe it's time to rethink the branding on that. And I'm excited. I'm excited for them to give that ride a facelift, and I think there's a lot of cool things that they can do with it. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. You know, when they retool certain rides, yeah, it makes sense. Splash Mountain makes sense, and uh, although I love the Zippity Doodah song, Zippity Doodah,
yeah,
Zippity. I like that song a lot, and I wouldn't have known about that song had it not been for Splash Mountain, I think. Um, you know, there's a backstory to that cartoon and that ride.
yeah,
Um, but then they do stuff like change Twilight Zone Tower of Terror in Anaheim and change that to a Guardians of the Galaxy type thing, uh, that's when I'm like, uh, yeah, you didn't need to retool that. I think you just that's like a money thing. And now
Yeah.
CBS just come out with Twilight Zone, and now it's maybe not popular again, but it's
Which they haven't touched the one in Florida. That one's still Tower of Terror,
for
and
now.
I
I
I
think
I
the
I,
license
I hope
is
they keep it. I because Tower of Terror is a terrific ride, and the story of it's great. I have not ridden Guardians of the Galaxy Breakout, but I don't know how much of this was already planned for California Adventure, but they are completely retheming that side of that park to Marvel Cinematic Universe. They what was a Hollywood backlot sort of style themed area is completely turning into a Marvel complex with a Spider-Man attraction, a Pym based
yeah.
eatery that's going to have giant and small food, and then they're going to have all the Marvel characters and stuff there. So like the whole thing is leveraging that side of their giant own everything, IP base. But I don't know. I'm excited for that. I'm a little bummed that some of the stuff that was there, because that was a hangout for me when Shane and I were dating. We had annual passes, and like you could get a discount if you were a Southern California resident. So we've got that like base SoCal resident pass, and then we would just go there as much as we could. So stuff is like it holds a special place in my heart, because like that's where I would go to date my wife now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my appreciation for Disney includes the way that they continue to innovate and change things, and make things new and keep things fresh, and don't always just rely on the same attractions that have always been there. So
Yeah. When California Adventure came out, I remember thinking, "Oh, look at them trying to waste more of my money." because you start a new park, you don't fill it with anything really that fantastic at the start,
yeah,
and then you expect people to pay a lot of extra money to go there, and you lean to get people to pay that money. uh, California California Adventure is has improved itself, but
yeah.
I still can't see, if I'm in Anaheim, I can't see myself not paying for Disneyland and only paying for California Adventure.
Oh
Like
yeah, no.
like
Well,
if I'm there, I'm going to Disneyland.
and when you like, if you only have one park to go to, it's Disneyland. Like there's no question. But
Yeah.
the almost the idea behind building California Adventure was to create a multi-day stay for tourists, where when you had 3 parks going out in Florida, they had the model for getting someone to come in,
Oh,
stay in a hotel for several days, visiting multiple parks, and sort of build a vacation around that. Whereas with Disneyland, you only had one park. Like people came for a day, maybe they stayed in a hotel, maybe they didn't. And so, have you watched the Imagineering documentary or documentary series on Disney Plus? Have you watched that at all,
no.
brother? You gotta like you gotta try a few episodes of that.
We'll talk about that next week.
You watch it. And now honest stuff. I'm watching the Frozen 2 making of. I think it's called Into the Unknown. It's a series about the making of Frozen 2. I wanted to be a Disney animator as a kid. That was my dream job growing up. So seeing the process and what goes into making an animated film in the year 2019, 2018, it is incredible. It is crazy, all the stuff that goes into making those films. And yeah, there's a whole shelf down there with Disney books about animation and stuff and parks, and that's my jam.
Yeah, yeah, that is your jam.
Has
Uh,
anybody gotten anxious watching TV or movies and seeing people hug or shake hands? Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
watching Dead to Me with Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini, and it just started in its second season. I'd never seen the first season, so I started watching a little bit with her.
Oh, yeah, on Netflix. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
watched the first season and then kind of bowed out of the second season about 2 episodes in.
yeah, but they're like, in Whole Foods and they're interacting with people face to face, and I'm like, this isn't realistic.
Get a mask. I'm
Get 'em
also
back.
really curious, like with movie and TV production. I know some production houses are starting back up with different like safety measures, but and I mean the 2020 like movie release cycle is all thrown off by production houses trying to hold things back, hoping that they can get theatrical releases or going straight to video or streaming sites, things like that. But it's really like I'm like, are we gonna hit a point where there's just like not a lot of new content like to put out, like where people aren't making shows, or there's I feel like we're gonna hit this lull where there's no new season of blank because um, you can't get a studio full of actors on set safely. Um, Maybe
I
this is where animation is going to thrive because writers can write, animators can animate
I I've
separately.
I've seen a couple of tweets about animation. This being their it being animation's time. So that I think there's a bit of truth in that.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that also it's not necessarily good for studios and production houses and all that type of business right now, where it's difficult to get people working in a space that close to each other
Mm-hmm.
right now. And like my brother-in-law, he's not an on-set person, right? But he it works in the studio in some capacity, and but because there's no actors, you can't get those actors close to each other. Well, then that effect free flows through, whatever
Yeah.
the cause and effect. But for the consumer of media, the thing that I've lamented in the last year or so is that there's just so much content out there that there's no way for us to consume it all. And so CBS and Fox and Disney and all these other places have produced so much content, and they're producing content that just it's never ending, and they're keep going because they got more money, and their coffers are never dry up. They keep producing content, assuming that content can't maintain that. Well, good. Now fucking slow down so we can catch up and we can actually watch your
Yeah.
stuff, and we can be actually interested
I can
in
use
it.
this HBO Max subscription to watch all the Studio Ghibli movies that I've never seen before, and
Yeah.
and try to watch The Wire. I don't know what else we can.
Oh my god. Great shit. But I want that Monty Python documentary from 2009.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix. I finally got a chance to sit down and watch it all.
I feel like I've watched it and forgotten about it. I feel like that's how long it's been out. Like I don't and I mean I was a broke kid that didn't have cable the better part of my childhood. So I would watch Python reruns on PBS cuz they would run that stuff on like late night PBS. So I love me some old Python stuff.
Yeah. What's most interesting to me about Python is that something one of them said, a couple of them said during the documentary series was they weren't like friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were never close friends. They were all from like one was from Oxford and one was from another high end British thing, and a Gilliam, and it was all they all had their own lives and they came together for this thing, and it it was influential, but they all just kind of like we worked together well. We had our working relationships,
Mhm.
but they weren't like close friends. They were
Yeah.
always business partners, you know. And that was really interesting to me, um, about it all. Really, the inside workings of comedy and how these folks in comedy continue their lives is interesting. Steve Martin's Born Standing Up, his not autobiography, all that stuff, because like they just there's an there's an art and a mechanic to comedy that I you know we talked about it before. It's just it seems so like on the spot, and we're like just it just comes out of nowhere. Just comedy is a thing, but there's process
Yeah,
behind it.
there's a lot of craft and a lot of hard work and doing things badly over and over again until you figure out what actually
Yeah.
works. And yeah,
Yeah, and we just
absolutely.
finished our 166th episode of Apathetic Enthusiasm.
Yeah, thank goodness we're not a comedy podcast. Like we're
Yeah.
not claiming to be funny all the time.
Oh my god.
Ugh. Ugh. It's so hot in this room.
Oh my
Ugh.
god.
It is unbearable. I feel like the AC vent doesn't work well in this room. Or maybe it's just because
You should fix it.
my thermostat is upstairs. I should. I installed a ceiling fan today. I'm doing Jerry things all over the place.
So here's what we're gonna do for next Monday. If you're still here in the stream, what we're gonna do is we're going to watch Travis install a new vent in his room. And it's gonna be like a this old house with Bob Vila type thing going on.
Speaking of being a broke kid with no cable, I watched some This Old House on like the weekends. Yeah, man, I learned all kinds of things.
That was
Have I put them into practice? No. But did I learn them? Yeah, I did.
My dad used to watch This Old House, and it was just God so boring. Just so boring.
I would watch that kind of stuff and watch like How It's Made and those kinds of shows. Like I'm that I just like to know how stuff works and how things are put together and stuff. So yeah, all of that stuff. I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. Oh, okay, and that machine will, add the schleem. Okay, got it. All right.
This is a lathe. You got to use the lathe for the.
You know what's the worst part about it is that hasn't changed in me because the Facebook algorithm has gotten to a point where I stop on enough like woodworking videos. I've never done woodworking in my life, but I've stopped on enough resin and woodworking projects that it knows to feed me that stuff because I'm like, oh, that's how they all right. And then it says watch the rest of it and watch, and I go, nope, keep going. I don't want to go into another part of your app just for watching videos. Okay, come on, Facebook.
Oh my god, it's just like those
I'm pulling my ad money, Facebook.
Just like those damn recipe videos and websites, like, here's my impression of recipe websites. When I was a kid, I used to go down to the corner market, and my mom used to tell me, Susan or Brandon, don't pick these types of apples. You want Granny Smith because they're tart. Those are great for pies. And you know what else is great for pies? Peaches. My mom used to take me down to the farmer's market, and she used to say, don't pick these peaches. Ha, but cherries, those make the best pies, she said. Well, I remember my mom took me to the swap meet where we could find the best cherries, and it just rambles on. It's so stupid.
And you have to scroll like 3 pages before it's like, all right, now here's how you make
churros.
Yeah, I dealt with that this weekend when I was smoking ribs in the smoker.
Oh yeah.
All right, I'm gonna melt in this chair, Brandon. So I think I'm gonna have to call this episode.
All right.
But we appreciate you guys hanging out. Thank you guys so much for just being part of the show and chiming in. And thank you guys for being awesome listeners, fans, and just all around good people. We appreciate you guys hanging out. And we'll be back next week. Yeah, another podcast maybe.
Yeah.
We
maybe
actually have quite a. Oh, go ahead.
I got canceled on Wednesday. So if you wanna do something Wednesday night, S4YA.
All right, yeah, I think we have a few different special podcasts lined up to include another interdimensional RSS episode in the near future. So be ready for that. And until then, I'm Travis. You know who we are.
And I'm Brandon.
We'll see you guys later.